Hi friends, we're back here for some more reading of The Tale of Despereaux. Chapter 33, A Rat Who Knows Her Name. Meg had climbed the dungeon stairs and was preparing to open the door to the kitchen when the rat spoke to her. May I detain you for a moment? Meg looked to her left, then to her right. Down here, said Roscuro. Meg looked at the floor. Go! But you a rat? And didn't the old man just warn me of such? Beware of rats, he said. She held the tray up higher, so the light from the candle shone directly on Roscuro, and the golden spoon on top of his head, and the blood-red cloak around his neck. There's no need to panic, none at all, Roscuro said. As he talked, he reached behind his back, and using the handle, he raised the soup spoon off his head, much in the manner of a man lifting his hat to a lady. Go, said Meg. A rat with manners? Yes, said Roscuro. How do you do? My papa had some cloth just like yours, Mr. Rat, said Meg. Red like that. He traded me for it. Ah, Roscuro said. He smiled, a knowing, large smile. Ah, did he really? That is a terrible story, a tragic story. Now, readers, if you will pardon me, we must pause here for a moment to consider a great and unusual thing, a preposterous thing. This great, unusual, preposterous thing is that Roscuro's voice was pitched perfectly to make its way through the tortuous path of Meg's broken down cauliflowered ear. That is to say, dear readers, that Miggery Sow heard perfectly and true every single word the rat Roscuro uttered. You have known your share of tragedy, Roscuro said to Midge. Perhaps it's time for you to make the acquaintance with triumph and glory. Triumph? Said Meg. Glory? Allow me to introduce myself. Friends call me Roscuro. And your name is Miggery Sow. Is that true? People most call you, though, simply Mig. Ain't that a thing? Shouted Mig. A rat who already knows my name? Miss Miggery, dear, I do not want to appear too forward so early in our acquaintance, but may I inquire, am I right in saying that you have aspirations? Here is Mig. You can kind of see, there we go, her big ear, and Roscuro with his golden soup spoon on his head, tipping it forward to say hello. What do you mean, aspirations? Shouted Mig. Miss Miggery, there is no need to shout, not at all. As you can hear me, I can hear you. We two are perfectly suited for each other. Roscuro smiled again, displaying a mouthful of sharp yellow teeth. Aspirations, my dear, are those things that would make a serving girl wish to be a princess. Gore, Meg agreed. A princess exactly is what I wish to be. There is, my dear, a way to make this happen. I believe there is a way to make your dreams come true. Do you mean I could be the Princess Pay? Yes, your highness, said Roscuro, and he swept the spoon off his head and bowed deeply at the waist. Yes, yes, your most royal Princess P. Gore! May I tell you my plan? May I illustrate for you how we can make your dreams of becoming a princess the reality? Yes, yes, said Meg. It begins, Roscuro said, with yours truly, and chewing of the rope. Meg held the tray with the one small candle burning bright, and she listened as the rat went on speaking directly to the wish inside her heart. So passionately did Roscuro speak, and so intently did the serving girl listen, that neither seemed to notice that the napkin on the tray moved. Nor did they hear the small mouse-like noises of disbelief and outrage that issued from the napkin as Roscuro went on unfolding step by step his plan to bring the princess into darkness. The end of Book 3. Book the 4th, Recalled to the Light. Chapter 34. Kill them even if they're already dead. Readers, you did not forget about our small mouse, did you? Back into the light, was what Gregory whispered to him when he wrapped Despereaux in his napkin and placed him on the tray. And then Mig, after her conversation with Roscuro, carried the tray into the kitchen. And when she saw Cook, she shouted, "It's me, Mig Grisel, back from the deep downs." "Oh, lovely," said Cook, "and ain't we all relieved?" Mig put the tray on the counter. "Here, here," said Cook, "your duties ain't done. You gotta clear it." "How's that?" said Mig. "You must clear the tray," shouted Cook. She reached over and took hold of the napkin and gave it a good shake. And Despereaux tumbled out of the napkin and landed directly plop into a measuring cup full of oil. "Ah!" shouted Cook. "A mouse is in my kitchen, in my cooking oil, in my measuring cup. Oh, Mig, kill him directly." Mig bent her head and looked at the mouse slowly, sinking into the bottom of the glass cup. "Oh, poor little mousie," she said, and she stuck her hand into the oil and pulled him up by his tail. Despereaux, gasping and coughing and blinking at the bright light, could have wept for joy of his rescue, but he was not given time to cry. "Kill him!" shouted Cook. "All right," said Mig. Holding Despereaux by the tail, she went to get the kitchen knife. But the mouse's tail was covered in oil. It was slick and difficult to hold, and Mig, in reaching for the knife, loosened her grip, and Despereaux fell to the floor. Mig looked down at the bundle of brown fur. "Go," she said. "That killed him for sure." "Kill him, even if he ain't already dead," shouted Cook. "That's my philosophy with mice. Kill him. If they're alive, kill them. If they're dead, kill them. That way you can be certain you have yourself a dead mouse, which is the only kind of mouse to have." "That's a good philosophy. Kill them if they ain't already dead." "Hurry, you cauliflower ear fool," shouted Cook. "Hurry!" Despereaux lifted his head from the floor. The afternoon sun was shining through the large kitchen windows. He had time to think of how miraculous the light was, and then it disappeared, and Mig's face loomed into view. She studied him, breathing through her mouth. "Now, Mousie," she said, "ain't you going to skedaddle?" Despereaux looked for a long moment into Mig's small, concerned eyes, and then there came a blinding flash and the sound of metal moving directly through the air as Mig brought down the kitchen knife. Despereaux felt an intense pain on his hindquarters. He leapt up and into action. Readers, he scurried like a professional mouse. He zigged to the left and he zagged to the right. "Gore!" shouted Mig. "I missed him!" "Ain't that a surprise?" shouted Cook, just as Despereaux scurried under the crack in the pantry door. "I got the little mousie's tail, though," shouted Midge, and she bent over and picked up Despereaux's tail and held it up proudly, displaying it to Cook. "Ugh, so?" shouted Cook. "What good will that do us when the rest of him has disappeared into the pantry?" "I don't know," shouted Midge. She braced herself as Cook advanced upon her, intending to give her a good clout to the ear. "I don't know." Here is the carving knife coming down. Oh, and slicing off Despereaux's little tail. Do you see it behind the knife? And there goes Despereaux. Chapter 35. A Knight in Shining Armor. Despereaux was pondering the reverse of that question. He was wondering not what he would do with his tail. He was wondering what he would do without it. He was sitting on a bag of flour high atop a shelf in the pantry, crying for what he had lost. The pain in his hindquarters was intense, and he wept because of it. But he also cried because he was happy. He was out of the dungeon. He had been recalled to life. His rescue had happened just in time for him to save the Princess P from the terrible fate that the rat had planned for her. So Despereaux wept with joy and with pain and with gratitude. He wept with exhaustion and despair and hope. He wept with all the emotions a young small mouse who had been sent to his death and then been delivered from it just in time to save his beloved. Oh, readers, the mouse wept. And then he laid on the sack of flour and slept. Outside the castle, the sun set and the stars came out one by one, and then they disappeared and gave way to the rising sun. And still Despereaux slept, and while he slept, he dreamt. He dreamt of stained glass windows and the dark of the dungeon. In Despereaux's dream, the light came to life, brilliant and glorious, in the shape of a knight swinging a sword, the knight that fought the dark. And the dark took many shapes as well. First, the dark was his mother, uttering phrases in French, and then the dark became his father, beating the drum. The dark was Furlong, wearing the black hood and shaking his head no. And the dark became a huge, smiling rat with a smile that was evil and sharp. The dark, Despereaux cried, turning his head to the left. The light, Despereaux muttered, turning his head to the right. He called out to the knight. He shouted, "Who are you? Will you save me?" But the knight did not answer. "Tell me who you are," shouted Despereaux. The knight stopped swinging his sword. He looked at Despereaux. "You know me," he said. "No," said Despereaux, "I don't." "You do," said the knight. He slowly took the armor off his head and revealed nothing, no one. The suit of armor was empty. Oh no, said Despereaux. There is no knight in shining armor. It's all just make-believe, like happily ever after. And in his sleep, readers, the small mouse began to cry. Stop here for today.